Hey, it's State of State. We got your Nittany Line update. It's a football discussion with Tom and Justin, so kick back and press play.
With former Penn State and NFL defensive back Justin King, I'm Tom Hannafin. This is State of State. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. State of State is presented by BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion. With the largest selection of odds on everything from the NBA to college basketball to the NHL and UFC, BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source. From every three-pointer to hat tricks, BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. State of State is presented by BetOnline. The game starts here. State of State is a proud supporter of Blue White Outfitters. Blue White Outfitters was created as a retail shop meant to highlight the confidence, competitiveness, and fearlessness of the elite athletes found throughout the history of Penn State University. Check out their Lockdown U and Lawn Boys merchandise today. All sales from Blue White Outfitters directly benefit Penn State student athletes. Also, official State of State merchandise is available now. Support the show and grab State of State t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Visit www.bluewhiteoutfitters.com today. Hi, everyone, and welcome to State of State. Earlier on this week, Penn State introduced its brand new running backs coach, Stan Drayton, formerly the head coach of the Temple Owls, spent 3 years as the head coach there, but is one of the more well-traveled running backs coaches and one of the more respected running backs coaches in college football right now. First off, Justin, you and I didn't get a chance to talk about this when he was initially hired, and we're finally getting on the same schedule here to talk about this, but Ja'Juan Seider leaves for Notre Dame. Penn State goes and grabs Stan Drayton. Do you feel that is an upgrade? Feels kind of even? What is your overall opinion of Stan Drayton?
Well, I mean, obviously Ja'Juan's a big loss to the staff, but I mean, anytime you replace him with a former head coach, I think is somewhat of an upgrade because you just have the perspective again and have that head coach of your room mentality. You actually have a head coach coming in that kind of gives zero in on just the run game. I mean, you got a lot of value that he brings to the program and those guys, and especially the running backs he has coached in the past. I mean, it's different driving a Toyota than it is driving a Lamborghini. He has history of driving Lamborghinis very, very well.
He has been a running back coach at his alma mater, Allegheny, Eastern Michigan, Penn, Villanova, Bowling Green, Mississippi State, Florida, where he won a national championship in 2006 when Phil Troutwine was the starting tackle for the Florida Gators, so some connective tissue there. Was a running back coach at Tennessee, Syracuse, Florida, Ohio State. He was briefly the wide receiver coach in 2011, then transitioned to running backs 2012 to 2014, won a national title with the Buckeyes in 2014, worked for the Chicago Bears in the NFL as a running backs coach, was at Texas as a running back coach, then his head coaching stint at Temple, and now at Penn State. That is a hell of a resume for anybody to bring to the table. His accolades are working with the likes of Bijan Robinson, Ezekiel Elliott, Carlos Hyde, Jordan Howard, Jarius Norwood, Matt Forte, and Brian Westbrook. He's recorded 7 1,000-yard rushers. Pretty darn good overall. And hearing him speak earlier on this week, Justin, to me, this guy sounded like the perfect fit for the job, in that they were like, well, what are you going to do when you first get introduced to everybody? It sounds like he's still very much getting acclimated to his running back room and the staff and all that stuff. And he said, I look for weaknesses. And it's like, man, that's exactly what you need to do with this room. And maybe that's overall as a coach, but specifically, you're inheriting 2 stellar running backs in Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen. They're pros or they're pros, but it's like, hey, what are the little things we have to really focus on and fine tune? When you hear a coach speak like that, how do you feel?
He's a head coach. Right. Like that's what I'm saying. Like he has a different perspective than like your
Yeah.
typical just running back coach because like as a head coach, you have to make sure that there's no holes in the boat. And if you're coming in from that perspective, it's like you have to be brutally honest with that mirror first before you can continue to spew things at an quote unquote army of guys that are listening to your every word. So I mean, that's what you get from former head coaches and proven coaches.
Drayton said earlier on this week, quote, "You learn a lot as a head coach. It takes you away from a lot of the intricacies of coaching. You're a CEO, and that alignment is so important." That famous James Franklin buzzword we also love. Quote, "Being aligned to Franklin's vision for Penn State is so important. So excited to have my own room, hold a shield, run a bag drill, something I really missed as a head football coach, the intimacy of having your own unit and helping individuals reach their own goals." From your experience, you work with LIG Sports Group and you're constantly interacting with players and coaches. Do you get that feeling more as this NIL and transfer portal era continues? Is that like, hey, there's a lot of coaches out there that just want to coach ball? Because that's what that felt like.
I think there's a lot of coaches that appreciate it more when they get to coach ball, right? And there's so much but like fluff that they have to deal with to be able to get to the ball now, right? And that's something that yeah, it's like a necessary evil, but yeah, there's more appreciation for the actual coaching, the relationship building, the development. You know, those things are being stripped out, and all it's going to do is hurt the athlete because a lot of coaches are going to find their jobs, but athletes only get this one opportunity to take this run in the middle of it. So that's why it's very precious and nuanced how these different rules and things come in because they affect a lot of different things just as a byproduct of simple decisions.
One quote that really stood out to me from Stan Drayton in regard to talking about Nick and Kaytron. He was told by James that Nick and Kaytron love the game, want to expand their roles within the game and as individuals. Drayton said, quote, "If you're serious about loving the game, then we're going to be a perfect marriage." How often do you see coaches like that truly love the game? And then what does that mean to you as a player? How often did you have that individual experience as a player when you could really tell this guy loves this, eats and breathes it?
I mean, once you play at a high level, most coaches love it because you can't fake it based on the time that they put in. I mean, they're literally doing football 12 to 16 hours a day. Like that's what they're doing. So they have to enjoy not only the X and O's, but the relationships that you build. Like you're dealing with a group of guys, like you have a problem at the beginning of the season, you have areas to get better. You go through waking up in the morning in January, walking through the snow, gritting it out, going through spring ball, everybody being sore, going through the summer, and you take this journey together. And like that is the relationship. And that's like the selling point to play football, right? Like that's the development, that's the athlete side. And then there's the business of the production and winning and losing. So you have to kind of make those things match. And sometimes we get caught on that one part, but a lot of people like they put that time in for those intimate, unique experiences. I don't think people realize, like for me, example, like you meet somebody like a Michael Parsons at 15, 16 years old, and you get to watch him kind of grow through this process. Him, Adisa Isaac, and guys like that, or Miles Sanders, and all the way up to like NFL players signing second contracts, and you just see how everything kind of changes, how people treat them different, how they start to transform, not in a bad way or wrong way, but just the whole athlete development, the commodification process is person to product, and you kind of watch that happen. So when you're really close and you can have a positive impact on it, it is very intoxicating and fulfilling, to be completely honest, because you're helping people fulfill dreams. Like people dream about these opportunities. So it's a very unique thing that is harder and harder to get to with a lot more of the business coming in at a younger and younger age with NIL and transfer portal and things of that nature.
Talking about dreaming of it, it sounds like Stan wasn't getting a whole lot of sleep. He said he, quote, debated on taking this year off after he was done at Temple But he said he was like, I'm having a hard time sleeping. I was itching to get around the game. He said, quote, coaching is my balance. Said that the Penn State job happened organically. He had interest from other programs as a senior analyst across the country. He said, quote, the longer I stayed idle, the more agitated I got. And that sounds like his family was probably like, get out of the house and go do something. So I'm sure you understand that from all your time around the game. But he said Coach Franklin got in touch with me after my time at Temple and had wished him well. And it speaks to the connections that James Franklin has. And I continue to be so impressed as the years go by. James Franklin's ability to staff, bringing in a former head coach. And he always talks about it, head coach of the offense, head coach of the defense, head coach of the defensive line, running backs, like just continuing to assemble a staff like this. So impressive by James Franklin. In terms of the competition in the room, we all know what Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen are capable of, and there's a very strong chance by the end of 2025, you have the number 1 and number 2 highest rushing totals in the history of Penn State football with Kaytron and Nick. So I'm very curious to see how this season plays out. But in regard to Stan, he was asked about sharing that workload with 2 different running backs. And he said, quote, having competition in the room is all positive. Sharing the load is going to be positive and productive for Penn State's offense. First thing I learned about the Penn State offense is the best players are going to play, regardless of position. We're going to find ways to get them on the field. You can't expect one running back to stay healthy the entire year and achieve your goals. There's some young talent in the room that I'm excited to work with. So obviously, Singleton and Allen, people giving them a lot of attention. But I mean, we got glimpses of Corey Smith, Cam Wallace, Quentin Martin Jr. Tyquee Hayes is a guy that's incoming now as part of the class of 2025. A lot of people are hopeful Messiah Mickens is going to be there in 2026 now that Sider is left. Same thing with Keemon Spell in 2027. Seeing if that running back continuity will still be there. And it also speaks to what Penn State is trying to do is that, yeah, if you stumble across a bell cow running back, a Saquon Barkley, yeah, they're going to get 25 carries a game. But right now, you're fortunate you have 2 guys who probably could be 25 carry a game guys. And we have seen instances where Nick and or Kaytron has taken on that load at times. But I mean, there's going to be a time, Justin, 10 years from now where Nick and Kaytron are on the phone with each other and be like, man, I'm glad we split carries when we were in Happy Valley because it's just elongating their careers. It did more for Penn State while they were there, hopefully doing more for them when they're in the National Football League at some point. But in your opinion, is that something that teams should be looking for? Can we have a 2 running back system all the time? Or is it just, hey, you got to do with what the personnel gives you?
I think it's what the personnel gives you in the sense of having a complementary backs and then also having 2 backs that, like you said, from just a room standpoint that mentally are compatible to do that, right? Whether it's not like a jealousy thing or it's like back and forth where they kind of take on. It's kind of like Lindell White and Reggie Bush back in the day. You know what I mean? Where it's just like, hey, you do this, I do that. Like we put us together, we're ultra or something. You know what I mean? Like having that type of mentality. But I know some running backs that was, no, I'm going somewhere where I want to be the man. I want the ball and I want to be the bell cow. And if you find yourself with a running back like that, you promise 2 guys, you may have problems with splitting the carries. But that comes with talent management of high level coaches. And again, why they pay the big bucks is with the relationships and making sure you win with those relationships.
How do you feel about the room after 2025, after Nick Singleton and Kaytron Allen are off to the National Football League?
You know, I think you should feel good. You got 2 top 5 running backs in Quentin and Tyquee Hayes come in behind them. I mean, they're just waiting their turn. So, I mean, that's kudos to the kennel and those guys bringing in top tier talent to be able to just reload and not have to have any rebuilding seasons.
Winding things down here in regard to Stan Drayton, he said the one advantage of being a head coach, kind of like you were talking about earlier, is setting a standard for your staff and players. I was able to get people to buy into a vision and why the vision is what it is, developing the whole man. We try to win ball games, but we forget about the development of the young man himself. You and I have talked about it a lot, James Franklin. I am a big fan of the quote after the Orange Bowl this year. Yes, this is transactional, but we want it to be transformational. And it sounds like Stan Drayton is aligned with that concept. From what you know about Stan as a coach and as a human being, what is his gift as a coach? What is his ability to get guys to buy in?
I think when you deal with a certain level of player consistently and you're honest with yourself, I think high level players like you named in his past, you can't connect with them if you're inauthentic. So I think there's a level of authenticity and comfort in your skin to be able to get across with players. I think that's one thread line through all coaches that have had success with high level players, not overachievers, like guys that are, deemed great and you help them remain or become greater. It's different coaching tactics when you're in that. So that takes cutting through the fluff a little bit. And I think he's been able to do that based on his evidence of impact.
The future looks very bright for Penn State football. The coaching staff seems to be in really good shape as we get into winter workouts, and we'll see whatever spring ball materializes into, given what Penn State was able to do deep in a college football playoff, the renovations to Beaver Stadium, as Pat Kraft talked about it. But any developments, we'll have it all right here on State of State. Thank you all so much for joining us. This episode and our entire library of shows is available now on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please like, comment, subscribe, rate us, and turn on notifications. Follow us on social media at State of State Pod. Comment on our YouTube channel. And if you haven't done so already, you can become a member of our YouTube channel. For just 99 cents a month, you can get all upcoming episodes of State of State, plus our entire members-only playlist, ad-free, commercial-free. Hit the join button on our homepage or follow the link in the description of this podcast. State of State is presented by Bet Online and by Blue White Outfitters.